Hey, so we know you've been writing for a long time. When did you start going out to readings and reading your work before an audience?
Good question. Probably not until I was in my 60s, I'm sure. I mean, I wasn't aware of what was happening in poetry. And then I would see something, oh, there's a reading here. I said, well, that's interesting, let me go. You know. And I guess I went to, what's his name? George's readings. I got invited, and that's maybe, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago anyway. And the place on Chestnut Hill, the bar at the bottom of Chestnut Hill I went to once. And that is 10, 12, how many people they have. They sit around and everybody reads a poem.
The Mermaid Inn.
The Mermaid Inn, right. And then they go around, and then 9 o'clock, the music starts. And I went there once, and you know I have a pet peeve about the word soul and its overusage. And the older man sitting, reading before me, evidently in a poem, I guess to his wife, I don't know for sure. But the word soul was there 3 times. And I said, this is not a place I want to be. So, but, you know, there's the Blue Marble, there was the Daily Grind, monthly or whenever. There's Fergie's on a regular basis. There are other readings in Center City. There are readings out in Wayne. You know, I mean, there's plenty to do. But I can't devote, 5 nights a week or whatever. I have to see my grandkids, have some fun.
Did you have any reservations when you first start going out to read your poetry, or were you kind of immediately comfortable with it?
Well, I was in theater. I mean, I'd done plays in college. I directed a play when I was teaching in high school. And hey, you've seen me. Give me the poem, I'll read it. What for? Well, why be afraid? These people aren't my enemies, at least not yet.
Give them a chance.
Yeah. So, no, I have no problems about that. I know that when I was younger, I was a shy kid. I was awkward. I was tall and thin, but now I'm tall and less thin. But no, I'm very comfortable in front of a group. When Frank Bay has an intermission, I'll take the mic, make a couple announcements, tell a joke or whatever. And I might not necessarily know what I'm going to say before I say it, but I have no problems.
What's the most fun part of poetry for you? What's the payoff?
I've done something personal. I've taken something, part of my life, or part of your life, or whatever, and focused on it. And focusing, the writing gives me pleasure. I write quickly. That I'll write a poem in 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and you'll say, yeah, that looks like it. But that's what works for me. I'm not one of these people who goes, gets up at 6 in the morning and goes to their desk and sits and, forces it out. If I don't write something for 2 weeks or a month, which can happen, okay. But I know the ideas are there. They'll come. And what more do I need? It gives me pleasure to write. I'm using my imagination. I mean, I might have said this to you people before, but any artist has 2 basic tools. His imagination and his medium. Well, my medium is language. Your medium is language. Okay. You know that I will throw some words into poems What does that mean?
Yes,
What is
we
that?
know.
Okay, but the point is that this is part of me using language in let's say, a maximum way, all right, to wake people up. There's a word, flocky knocking the hill of vilification. Okay, no, seriously. And it's 4 negatives put together, meaning the habit of estimating as worthless. So I use this on my phone, on my answering machine, my message. It say no flocky knocking hill of vilification, meaning don't devalue your message. I use that word, and people would ask me, and I would explain to them. And then, a couple of years before Galloway Cannell died, he used the word in a poem.
Ooh.
I don't remember the poem, but I was pleased. It made me smile. Now, Galloway, I found him to be, in my one encounter with him, a very generous man. I was at the Dodge Festival, and there was a panel going on, and there were 5 or 6 poets. And I said something to Gal. I said, you know, there's a poem of yours that I read to my classes because I think it's just a nice poem for teenagers.
Wow.
So he said, well, do you have a copy? Do you have it with you? I said, yes. He says, come on up, we'll read it together. So I thought that was nice. You know, it showed what kind of a person he was. And you just, through the whole group, session, whatever, he was generous. And I think that's a good thing in an artist, in a poet, in whatever. If I had the opportunity to teach poetry to high school groups, I would do that. You don't have to pay me because it's something that I would enjoy. So I forget the point of the question, but you know.
Well, that's a good point. That as far as poetry is concerned, you're always doing what you do because you enjoy it, not to get paid because you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
we know it's from the heart.
well, it's yeah.
Or from the soul, but I wouldn't say that.
You better not say that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like I can't go out and play touch football. I mean, I could, you know, if we had the ultra old age. There's a group of guys who play softball. I know a guy who played softball into his 70s. And I played softball into my 60s with my synagogue league. That's the only reason I wanted to join the synagogue, because they had a softball team. And I was the oldest guy on the team at the time, maybe 60 years old. And it was great. You know, well, I'm not so much interested in that. You know, I guess my great exercise would be playing poker. You know, that would shuffling the cards, whatever. And raking the chips in. That's always a great exercise. But this, you know, my brain is stimulated. I mean, that's, you know, I don't want to sit in a rocking chair and this chair does rock, but you know, there's still more to it. You know, I love my grandkids. You know, I take my grandson diving practice. I gave him a notebook. Now he writes in it, and he writes poetry. I have a couple. I guess I have a couple poems about him, and one where I quote one of his poems about peace and love and so on. He's 9 years old, so you know that gives me a good feeling. And he's a hell of a diver. He never loses in his age group, so that's good for his ego. But I guess it's really a question of you get out of it what you put into it.